The cameras flashed, the crowd froze, and just like that, Hollywood had a new obsession. Millions of viewers tuned in every single week to watch a massive, picture-perfect family. But behind the bright lights, the merchandise, and the forced smiles, a much darker reality was being locked away. Literally.
Yeah, it was, the ultimate illusion. I mean, we were sold this quirky, chaotic, but ultimately loving household. But the truth emerging now just completely shatters that entire image.
Welcome to Starscope Report. Join Jordan and Jamie as they uncover Hollywood drama, music industry shakeups, and viral influencer scandals. From red carpet surprises to social media controversies, we dive deep into the stories behind the fame.
And today's deep dive is definitely a heavy one.
It really is. Our mission today starts with a headline that has completely rocked the entertainment world. Collin Gosselin shares another disturbing childhood memory. We're taking a really hard look at the chilling new allegations from the former reality child star about his mother, Kate Gosselin. We'll be using recent news reports, his explosive interview footage, and a really fascinating legal study from Seton Hall University to unpack exactly what happened to Collin, how his family is reacting to these bombshells, and the shocking legal loopholes that leave reality TV children completely unprotected.
It's a story that, kicks off with what feels like tabloid drama, but very quickly reveals this massive systemic failure in the entertainment industry. You really have to brace yourself for where this goes.
Let's ground ourselves in the history first. To understand the gravity of Collin's allegations and his secret cry for help, you have to remember the absolute meteoric rise of Jon and Kate Plus 8.
Oh, they were everywhere.
Literally inescapable. By January 2008, this wasn't just a popular show, it was TLC's highest-rated program. Magazine covers, morning talk shows, best-selling books. But Collin, who was born in 2004 as one of the sextuplets, he recently stated something that should make anyone just stop and pause. He has absolutely no memories of life before the cameras.
Let's actually think about the psychology of that for a second. Your earliest cognitive memories aren't of private, quiet family moments. They are of a film crew with boom mics and, lighting rigs in your living room.
Yeah.
There is zero baseline for normalcy. You're performing before you even know what a performance actually is. And when you factor in the pressure cooker of a high-conflict marriage ending in a really highly publicized, contentious divorce in 2009.
Right. That was a huge media circus.
Exactly. That environment becomes an absolute powder keg. Kate ended up with full legal custody, and the show rebranded to Kate Plus 8. But according to Collin, that's when things went from chaotic to genuinely terrifying.
Which brings us to the core of these new allegations. Collin sat down for an explosive interview for the Vice CE series Dark Side of the 2000s, and he's actually gearing up to release a memoir on October 13th titled In the Shadow of Eight, Surviving the Reality of My Childhood. And the specifics he's sharing they're hard to stomach. He alleges that Kate actually built a custom containment room for him in an unfinished section of their storage basement.
And we need to be really clear about what he's describing here. He's not talking about, like, a timeout chair or sending a kid to their room.
No.
He claims this door was bolt-locked from the outside, the lights were turned off, there were cameras constantly watching him. He says he was given nothing but a mattress on the floor, and that his mother would put him in this room multiple times, zip-tying his hands and feet together.
Which is just horrific.
It's unthinkable. He's completely segregated from his siblings. His sister Hannah has actually come forward to corroborate this, noting he wasn't allowed to play outside or even eat dinner with the rest of the family.
But hold on, I'm struggling to understand something logistically here. If there were reality TV cameras constantly in the house, filming their day-to-day lives, how does a child get locked in a basement without a producer, a sound guy, or like a lighting technician noticing and calling Child Protective Services? How does that even work?
It's a great question, and it really speaks to the compartmentalization of reality TV production. I mean, the crew isn't there 24/7. They have call times, they shoot specific scenes like a family outing or, a kitchen breakfast, and then they leave.
Oh, I see.
Right.
Okay.
Furthermore, Collin claims this targeting happened precisely because Kate was going through a lot with her divorce and needed an outlet for her anger and frustration. He said he felt he was just in the way, so she chose him.
Wow.
Yeah. If the adults in the home are carefully managing what the crew sees, a child in an unfinished storage basement can easily remain hidden from the production schedule.
That makes the isolation so much more insidious. But, he didn't just stay quiet. When Collin was around 12 years old, he started telling his teachers about the abuse. He started asking adults outside the home for help.
And that's when things escalated.
Right. Kate's response to a child speaking up was to admit him to the Fairmount Behavioral Health Institute in Philadelphia, claiming she couldn't meet his, quote, special needs with her own resources.
He describes being sent away specifically to silence him. I mean, he was placed in a psychiatric hospital. He described it as an incredibly dark place where he had absolutely no support system. The psychological toll of that sequence of events is immense.
Yeah, I can't even imagine.
To be a child locked in a basement while your family films a hit television show upstairs and then shipped off to a facility, the moment you try to tell a teacher what's happening, the betrayal of trust is just absolute.
It is. And the only way he got out was straight out of a thriller. He smuggled a secret letter to his dad, Jon Gosselin. And the wording in that letter is just heartbreaking.
What did he say?
He wrote, "Dad, you're my savior. Please help me. I'm counting on you to get me out of here." He literally had to find the address of the facility on a promotional brochure and sneak the letter out.
Which underscores how much control Kate had over the situation, because Jon apparently had absolutely no idea where Collin even was. Kate hadn't disclosed the location to him. That smuggled letter was Collin's sole lifeline to the outside world.
Jon had to mount a massive legal battle. By his own admission, he spent $1 million, basically everything he had, to get his son out of that facility and a subsequent one in Pittsburgh.
Wow.
Yeah. Jon ultimately won sole physical and legal custody because Kate failed to even show up to the court hearing. And what's fascinating is that Jon now claims Collin was completely misdiagnosed by those facilities. He says Collin doesn't have the slew of psychiatric and behavioral conditions he was labeled with.
Right.
Instead, Jon says Collin suffers from severe PTSD caused directly by Kate's abuse.
Well, from a clinical standpoint, that tracks perfectly with the trauma he describes.
Right.
If you place a child in a dark basement, bind them, isolate them from their only peers, their siblings, and then institutionalize them when they ask for help, PTSD is the entirely expected outcome of that level of sustained terror.
Absolutely.
Yet, what stands out to me is that when you listen to Collin speak today, he still uses a remarkably compassionate tone regarding his mother. Yeah, he says he thinks she had a good heart before the TV show. The fame and the money fundamentally changed her. That level of grace from someone who survived that environment is staggering.
It truly is. But if you think the rest of the Gosselin family rallied around Collin after all of this came out, well, you are sorely mistaken. The reaction from his own siblings will shock you. And hey, if you're loving these Hollywood twists and uncovering the truth behind the headlines, make sure you subscribe. Right now, we've got even crazier stories ahead, and you won't want to miss a thing.
Because the public fallout from Collin's allegations doesn't just stay in the past. It is actively tearing the family apart in real time.
So with these horrific allegations out in the open, how on earth did the rest of the family respond? Because Collin's bombshells didn't just drop into a void. The public immediately turned to Kate and his siblings, demanding answers. Currently, Collin is estranged from everyone in his family except his dad and his sister Hannah.
Right. You would expect a mother accused of such horrific things, like building a containment room, zip-tying her child, to issue a very serious, carefully worded PR statement denying it.
You would think so.
But Kate's initial response to Collin challenging her to take a lie detector test about the zip ties was astonishing in its casualness. She responded in the comments section of a TikTok video she had posted about her rescue dog, Coda.
A rescue dog video. Someone commented suggesting she sue Collin for defamation if he was making this all up. Kate replied that she can't because she's a public figure and, quote, malice is one of the hardest things to prove. And when someone directly brought up the lie detector test challenge, she just replied, ha, literally just a laugh.
Leaning on a legal technicality while laughing off your son's claims of child abuse projects, pure calculation, not empathy. From a legal standpoint, she's referring to the actual malice standard.
Oh, the actual malice. Let's break that down. Why does Kate being a public figure mean she can't just sue him if he's lying?
Because of the First Amendment, the law makes it intentionally difficult for famous people to sue for defamation. If you or I were falsely accused of something, we just have to prove the statement was false and damaged our reputation.
Right.
But if you are a public figure, like Kate Gosselin, the Supreme Court requires you to prove actual malice. That means you have to prove the person making the claim knew it was false when they said it, or acted with reckless disregard for the truth.
So she's basically using a high-level First Amendment shield as her defense, instead of just saying, I never did this to my son.
Precisely. And then her lawyer, Richard Puleo, gave a statement to Page 6 that only muddied the waters further. He claimed that Kate didn't intentionally harm Collin, but that she did what she did to protect herself and her family from his troubled behavior.
The phrasing there is just wild. Saying you didn't intentionally harm your child while simultaneously justifying locking them up as a protection mechanism for the rest of the family. I mean, it's a textbook scapegoating defense.
Absolutely.
It takes the entire burden of a highly dysfunctional, highly publicized adult situation and places the blame entirely onto the shoulders of a child.
It also frames the child not as a victim of their environment, but as the instigator of it. And unfortunately, that defense was echoed loudly by Collin's older sister, Jon Gosselin. Mady posted a very aggressive pushback on Instagram.
What'd she say?
She accused Collin of recent violent threats and hate speech against the family, claiming these incidents happened as recently as last year. She explicitly stated she will refuse to compromise her peace for anyone, quote, even my brother Collin.
I have to push back on the core logic of this defense, though. The idea that a child who was put on national television at age 3, who had a camera in his face before he could read, is somehow the architect of this toxic environment. Think about it.
Yeah.
It's like a Hollywood director blaming a child actor for ruining a scene when the director is the one who locked the kid on the set, controlled the lighting, wrote the script, and threw away the key. How can a child be the villain in an environment completely controlled, manipulated, and profited off of by the adults in the room?
That analogy hits the nail on the head. The adults hold all the power. They control the narrative, the environment, the finances, and the access to the outside world.
Exactly.
To suddenly point the finger at the child and claim they are the primary threat ignores the power dynamic entirely. But it also shows the deep emotional scars left on these siblings. In highly toxic family systems, especially those under public scrutiny, children are often triangulated.
Right, turned against each other.
Yes, they are forced into opposing camps just to survive emotionally. Mady's experience of the family is clearly entirely different from Collin's, and she feels fiercely protective of her own boundaries.
And Jon has stepped in to counter that narrative. He released a statement defending Collin's courage, calling out what he explicitly labeled a false storyline created by Kate to alienate Collin from his siblings. Jon made a point to highlight that Collin has overcome all of this trauma and is now a young U.S. Marine.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he's out there serving his country, building an independent life, while his mother's camp continues to label him a violent threat.
What breaks my heart is that Collin still openly hopes to reconnect with his siblings someday. He had a near-fatal car crash in 2022, and he revealed that none of his siblings, nor his mother, reached out to see if he was alive.
That's awful.
Yet he still expresses love for them. But the reality is the damage done during those formative years in front of the cameras might just be too deep to repair.
Which naturally leads us to the biggest question of all. We've looked at the family drama, but later in this deep dive, we are going to look at the shocking legal loophole nobody saw coming. How was any of this legally allowed to happen on national television?
It's the question everyone should be asking.
Right. How do camera crews film a family for years and completely miss or ignore what is happening behind closed doors? Stay tuned and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what's coming next as we uncover the hidden truths of the entertainment industry.
Because the truth is, what happened to Collin isn't just a failure of parenting. It is a massive systemic failure of the American legal system.
Let's get into the mechanics of this. To understand why children on reality TV are totally unprotected by the law, we have to look at a brilliant 2013 legal study from Seton Hall University by researcher Jessica Ray. It perfectly outlines the massive gap in our legal framework that allows networks to operate what scholars call the Hollywood sweatshop.
This is where the story shifts from a single family's trauma to an industry-wide scandal. As viewers, we inherently assume that kids on TV are protected. We've all heard of child labor laws. But reality TV exploits a very specific, very dark legal loophole that strips these kids of their rights.
Let's lay out the facts. In the United States, we have a federal law called the Fair Labor Standards Act, or FLSA. It was designed decades ago to ban oppressive child labor.
Right.
But it has a specific exemption built into it called the Shirley-Temple Act. This exemption allows child actors and performers to work in the entertainment industry under the very strict assumption that they are protected by powerful Hollywood unions like SAG and AFTRA.
If you are a child actor on a Disney sitcom or, a major movie, you have union representatives.
Yeah.
You have mandatory studio teachers who ensure you get your schooling.
Yeah.
You have strictly limited hours based on your exact age. You are highly regulated.
Yeah.
But here is the loophole the Seton Hall paper exposes. Reality TV kids are not legally considered employees.
Wait, how can they not be employees? They are the entire premise of the show. The show is called Jon and Kate Plus 8. The 8 are the product.
Because the production companies argue a technicality. They argue that these kids aren't working or acting. Producers claim they are simply creating a documentary. They argue they are graciously being allowed to bring cameras into the family's private home to passively document their everyday lives. And because they were just living, not working, they get absolutely zero union protections. No SAG, no FTRA, no federal limits on how many hours a camera can be shoved in their face.
That is wild. So if a kid on a scripted sitcom starts crying from exhaustion, a union rep steps in, shuts down production, and says the kid needs a break. But if a kid on a reality show starts crying from exhaustion, a producer zooms the camera in because that's good television.
You've just hit on the exact double-edged sword of exploitation that Jessica Ray highlights in her research. These kids aren't employees, so they have no workplace rights. But simultaneously, they are completely stripped of their privacy at their most vulnerable developmental stage.
That makes total sense.
Children do not possess the cognitive ability to censor their words or actions. They don't understand the long-term consequences of throwing a tantrum on camera.
And the researchers point out the psychological damage of the editing process. I mean, if a child actor plays a villain on a show, they take the costume off at the end of the day. They know it's fake.
Exactly.
But if a reality TV producer takes hours of footage of a tired, stressed out real child and edits it to make them look like a brat or a troublemaker just for ratings, that damages the child's actual reputation. They absorb the public's hatred for a producer-driven caricature of themselves.
Which perfectly contextualizes Kate's lawyer's defense of Collin having troubled behavior.
Oh.
If a child is acting out because they are surrounded by boom mics, lighting rigs, and intense family conflict, the producers capture that. They edit it, broadcast it with dramatic music, and suddenly that child is permanently branded as the problem child to millions of viewers.
It becomes their identity.
The narrative is set before the kid is even old enough to defend themselves.
And we haven't even touched on the financial exploitation, which is where the corporate greed really shines through. Without these legal protections, kids on reality TV aren't guaranteed a single dime of the millions of dollars their shows generate.
Right.
Now, states with heavy entertainment industries like California and New York have what are called Coogan laws.
Named after the classic child star Jackie Coogan, whose parents famously spent all his money before he reached adulthood. Coogan laws require 15% of a child performer's gross earnings to be set aside in a block trust until they turn 18. California also requires strict work permits and limits hours.
But the reality TV producers know this, so they deliberately engage in a practice the Seton Hall paper calls forum shopping. Think of it like a massive corporation registering its headquarters in an offshore tax haven to avoid paying taxes.
Yeah, that's a good comparison.
Except here, networks are shopping for states with the weakest child labor laws so they can film kids without having to pay them or restrict their hours. Where did Jon and Kate Plus 8 film? Pennsylvania, right where the Gosselins lived.
And the paper notes that other shows intentionally film in places like Montana or Arkansas, where agricultural exemptions or entirely silent laws mean children are completely unprotected from long filming hours. By forum shopping, networks save millions of dollars in production costs and avoid having to put a portion of the profits into trusts for the very children generating the ratings.
It is an intentional, calculated business model. The California Labor Commission actually stated way back in 2003 that the level of control reality producers have over scheduling, lighting, and wardrobe absolutely creates an employer-employee relationship.
Oh, absolutely.
But because there is no universal federal law, producers just pack up their cameras and film in other states. The researchers at Seton Hall basically said, we need one universal federal rule. No more hopping across state lines to avoid the law. They recommended a comprehensive federal statute specifically defining reality television and enforcing mandatory work permits, hour limits, and minimum 30% financial trust for these kids, regardless of what state they film in.
But as of right now, that loophole remains wide open. Which means you have to look at every single family reality show differently. Every time you see a child crying, acting out, or being disciplined on a reality show today, you have to realize the child is essentially working in an unregulated environment, without union protection, likely without financial guarantees, solely for the entertainment of strangers.
It's a completely unregulated Wild West, and the kids are the ones paying the ultimate price. The vulnerabilities that Collin Gosselin experienced are structurally still in place for kids being filmed this very minute.
It makes you wonder how many other containment rooms, literal or figurative, are hidden just out of frame on the shows we binge watched today.
It's a heavy realization to process. But as we wrap up today's deep dive, I want to leave you with a final, chilling concept to mull over. If the entire appeal of reality television for the last 2 decades has been capturing raw, unscripted truth, what happens over the next decade? What happens as an entire generation of reality TV children grow up, break their silence, and use their own memoirs to expose the actual truth of what happened behind those closed doors? Are we watching the slow, inevitable collapse of the family reality TV empire brought down by the very children it exploited for profit?
It's a reckoning that has been a long time coming. When the kids finally get to hold the pen, the scripts are going to look very, very different.
You've been listening to Starscope Report, where Jordan and Jamie uncover the stories shaping Hollywood, music, and pop culture. Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories that keep the stars shining.